Welcome to the 2025 Asia Pacific Photography Awards Maternity Top 10 Live Judging. This category is for photographs where the main focus relates to maternity. It may include other people, animals, or other elements that give context to the story of the image. The subject does not need to be human for acceptance into this category. Entries may be traditional and/or interpretive. My name is Sarah McGregor and I am the panel chair for this judging session, and we have a wonderful panel of judges: Michelle Fay, Matt Palmer, Jo Francis Moore and Angela Eastwood, and Stacey Cavalier. We're going to start the category with a run through of our top 10 images. Can we have the first image, please? Thanks, judges. We have a score of 84, which is a silver award.
Am I able to challenge in the next range, or?
You are. Stacey has scored just 1 point higher. So unless, Stacey, if you don't want to take it, Matt can.
I'd love to challenge it, to be honest.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'd love Matt to talk too, though. Yeah, I think I've scored this an 86 into the silver with merit range. I think there's a really strong narrative here. There is at first, when you kind of look at it, you sort of see this slightly awkward lady, but actually behind you can see in the rock this really dark figure. And with the big eyes and the big gaping mouth, and that the mouth is almost swallowing, coming towards the head of this beautiful mother. And I can even see really big hands coming around. They're going to, grab her. And then there's this beautiful mother who is in this dark cave, but looking up to the light. And she's got her hand out slightly awkwardly on the rock, but potentially what she's doing is steadying herself. So, I mean, for me, it's a really strong metaphor for what women might go through when they're pregnant and they're having their first baby. And all of these dark, negative thoughts can really creep into the background of things. Am I going to be good enough? How hard is this going to be? How is my life going to change? And it's sometimes easy for those dark thoughts to kind of creep in, but she's looking up to the light, and she's looking up to the new life that's growing. So there's a little bit of greenery showing that there's life. And then the slightly awkward hand on the rock is either steadying herself or pushing those dark thoughts away, and just ties in really beautifully with that slightly anxious, worried look on her face. So I think it's a really, really good story for what women go through when they are pregnant, and the concerns and the worries, and pushing back those dark thoughts, and trying always to look forward to the light.
Thanks,
and that's
Stacey.
why I put it in an 86, and I'd love you to come up with me.
Thank you. Jo, do you want to comment on this one?
Yeah, I scored this. Let me see. I can't remember now. 82, so not massively out. I didn't see the figure. To be honest, all I saw is this very beautiful lighting and beautiful environment, and I just felt like the woman was a real like the wrong choice for this environment, or it was the wrong choice for this woman, because I do feel that she feels awkward, and my overwhelming emotion for this picture is fear. And I guess that makes sense with your narrative, which I guess I hadn't really seen myself. I just felt like the maker had found this beautiful environment and this beautiful woman and put it all together, but that the two things feel clashy to me. I'm not entirely sure that, I mean, I don't know that I understand your story. I don't know that I buy it. I don't know that I feel like that was the intention of the photo. Like I love that you've made this interesting story, and I believe all that to be true, but I don't know that I really buy it for this photo. So, but I'm listening, and I'm willing to come up a bit.
Thanks, Jo. Matt, can we hear from you, please?
Yeah, I'd say when I first looked at it, I also saw it as a straight maternity shot. However, that figure in the background is deliberate. If you look at it at the 100%, you can even see that the eyes of that figure have highlights in them just by rocks kind of sticking out a little bit. That might have been something where the photographers dodged and burned selectively to create the appearance of that figure and accentuate it even more, but I 100% believe that that's intentional. And I even think that the woman's expression has been chosen or nuanced in such a way during the shooting process to amplify that. So when you say, I get the feeling of fear, that's exactly the intention of the photograph, is to have fear. It wouldn't make sense for her to look happy about the impending birth, and then that would be so incongruent with what's going on here. So I think it's 100% intentional. I do think that the concept could have been taken further, and that is representing that a little bit more through the selection of clothing and things like that. I think that could lift this up even potentially into the gold range if you were really clever about how you bring every element together. But as it stands, I'm very happy with it in silver with merit.
Thanks, Matt. Back to you, Stacey.
Yeah, thank you for that support there. I do think that that's really an intentional move as well, and I think that even that low angle sort of means that as I said, the mother's head is almost kind of being swallowed by this dark figure in the background. I think when you first see it, it is really possible just to think she looks anxious and scared, and but once you bring into that narrative, I think that it's actually a really well thought out photo, and a really strong credit to the photographer for going through with that concept. So really would encourage you to bring that up into the Silver with Merit range.
Thanks, Stacey. Can we have the judges rescore, please? And we have a silver with merit at 86. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a score of 78, which is a highly commended award. And we will accept that. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have a comment from Matt Palmer?
Yeah, sure. I think the photographer, what they've done really well is the silhouette's been captured beautifully. The sun is used as a metaphor in this image, perhaps the light coming into their life. In terms of the technicality, I think that's probably what stopped it from going a little bit higher in its scoring. There's some dust spots in the gradients of the sand there where it's reflected the sky, and there's a few kind of image artifacts and things to be found in those areas as well. And just watch when you're cropping a silhouette that you don't cut through the head. But overall, there's a lot of good things going on.
Thanks, Matt. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a score of 83. Did Joe or Stacey want to take the challenge, or are you happy with that?
You want to go, Stace?
I'll give it a go. You can back me up.
Okay,
I just slipped this into a silver with merit on 85. Just because it's a beautiful, really, again, another beautiful example of a symmetrical photo with that really lovely concept of before and after. The fact that the photographer has thought about the concept and arranged to do these poses, obviously, a long way before and a long way after the baby's born, and then brought them together is just tells us that really beautiful story. The lighting is really lovely. The obviously brings attention to all the right places. There's lots of detail in there. The fact that the baby's got the eyes open and really looking directly at us, I really enjoy that. They're kind of saying, "I'm here," I'm here, and then making really great eye contact with the camera. So, just for the quality of the creation and the foresight and the skill that's gone into this photo, I've given it a beautiful 85, and I think just a little nudge up would be great.
Thanks, Stacey. Angela, can we hear from you?
Sure, I gave this an 81 for the reasons that you said, that it's a very beautiful image, and I like the concept with the before and after, and it was probably just a few technicalities that actually stopped me from going a little bit higher. Namely, I just felt like the way they've dealt with the fabric on the dresses there has quite a painterly kind of appearance to me, but it doesn't work with the actual figures themselves, so that it's not consistent in the treatment of I don't feel like there. And just on the left hand side, the before figure with the little details like showing the underwear showing on her upper thigh and leg there, which could have been dealt with slightly better as well. But yeah, very beautiful image, and happy with it being in a silver range there.
Thanks, Angela. Matt's got his hand up.
Yeah, I was in silver as well. For more points, if you could explain the use of mirroring in the image, that would help me to go a little higher. I always think it's a little odd when you kind of horizontally flip a figure rather than just shooting them from the other side. So you can see that her fringe, for example, is mirrored rather than reflective of if she was standing in that position. And the same goes with her tattoo, which of course could have been on both sides, but the fringe kind of gives that away as well.
Thank you. Joe, were you waving your hands
Yeah,
around
this
for a
is
reason?
this is the story of life's journey. The mirroring to me is perfect because this is a butterfly, and the first half is half of the butterfly, and the second half completes the butterfly. And if you think of that as an analogy for life, those of us who yearn to be parents, this is showing us. This is showing her she's beautiful, she's perfect, but then she has a baby, and then she's complete. I personally love the painterly effect because I think what the painterly effect does is it softens everything. We get the full story of the butterfly, the metaphor of life, completion. But that's not the point of these faces. And we are drawn right in to the serenity and the softness and the love that's present in the body posing and the faces. I'm very glad she's got undies on, personally. I did not need to see that bit of her. So thank you for the undies. Yeah, I feel like this is a really well conceived, really well put together piece of art that tells the journey of this woman's life, and I definitely think it's deserving of silver distinction. I gave it an 87, but I may have just talked myself up a few more points.
Thanks, Joe. Back to you, Stacey.
Yeah, thanks for those comments. I can see all of the things that all of you have really mentioned, but I really am with Joe on this, in that I think that kind of painterly effect just softens the edges and the fabric itself could be quite distracting in some ways, but because it is that painterly soft effect, it means that we're drawn back into the middle. I love the idea of the butterfly completing the image. For me, the flipping of the image gives it that symmetry. So having the tattoo showing on, which is obviously a very strong part of her. I like seeing that on the other side as well. For me, that adds to the symmetry, the parting in the hair, all of those things. It's a really well constructed image. I think those things that we've talked about that were concerning to some of you, I think have been done intentionally. And I think, I'd really like to reward the photographer with that. So come on up.
Thanks, Stacey. Can we have the judges rescore, please? And we have a silver with merit at 85. Thank you, judges. Great discussion. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a score of 78. That's a highly commended award. Congratulations to the photographer. Would someone like to give comment on this one? Matt's got his hand up.
Yeah, I think it's a beautifully captured, really delicate kind of photograph. I personally like the kind of flat feeling lighting of it because I feel it gives it kind of an old style art feel to it. I think what let me down from going into the silver range personally was just how the backdrop has potentially been composited in. There's a few kind of hard lines, particularly on the right hand side on one of the beams. You can see that there's a strong vertical line there where it hasn't been cleaned up. And there's also a few kind of dashes and markings on the backdrop as well. So when you have such a clean backdrop, it's almost going to give away anything. So you really have to get in at 100% and make sure there's nothing that stands out to you when you're moving your image around.
Thanks, Matt. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a score of 79. Do you want to challenge, Jo?
Yep. I think this one is definitely worthy of a silver. I've given it an 83. There's so much joy in this picture. There's so much celebration. This beautiful woman sat on this incredibly uncomfortable environment, yet she looks ecstatic to me. She looks like she's saying, bring on my baby, bring on the next chapter of my life. The skin's been handled really well. You've got all those beautiful tones through there. I think, the highlights, there's a couple that are a bit bright, but overall they're not too bad. I just think this is a real beautiful celebration of natural pregnancy. I think the styling's been done really well for the environment. I think if she'd had a big foofy dress on, I would have felt that was competing with the waterfall and the beautiful natural environment. I think this is definitely worthy of a silver. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Thank you. Matt's got his hand up.
I scored it into highly commended. I'm only a couple of points off. I think this is one of those portraits that makes you want to know the person, or automatically you like them because of the warmth and joy that that person is radiating. So I think that's a really special aspect of this photograph. I do appreciate that the photographer hasn't gone in and removed wrinkles and things. Like, she's got a lovely kind of lived in face, but still quite aesthetically beautiful as well in terms of how she's been presented. It's just very real, authentic, and connecting. I think what held me back that couple of points was perhaps just choosing a different time of day where you're not going to get those harsh highlights on the waterfall in the background, particularly on the left-hand edge where you've got a really large section of highlight that's coming through. That could potentially be cropped or removed within category rules if you follow those to the T and make sure you're doing everything right. So there are a lot of options to remove those distractions that you could explore.
Thanks, Matt. Michelle, can we hear from you in your score?
I scored this 79, and what held me back was that bright patch on the left. If you had have just got that in a little bit. I do love the joy that she's got, but there's just a few styling things that you could have done, just to pull that dress over that right breast, just so it fell nicely and doesn't look like it's just fallen off, because she's actually wearing a dress over the top of her bra, but it's like on one side it's fallen off because her arm's gone so far back behind her. It's just those little attentions to details. But I am listening, Jo.
Thanks, Michelle. Back to you, Jo.
I think you nailed it, Matt, when you said it's authentic. Every part of this is authentic to me. For me, the story of this photo is this is a woman who lives in nature. She tramps, she hikes, she swims, she does all of those things. And this is her natural environment. And she's just being real and free. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. We could have handled that highlight on the left better, but I also think that that's probably not worth taking 20 whole points off for. So yeah, I'd love you just to feel into this image and the authenticity of it and the joy of it and the celebration of it, and the realness of it. For me, I love the fact that the clothes are falling off. This is a woman who probably the minutes after that dived into the water and had a swim. You know, she's not here to sort of be this perfect princess. She's here as a real human woman celebrating her very real pregnancy. I encourage you to give it a few more points and squeak into silver.
Thanks, Jo. Can we have the judges rescore, please? And we have a silver award at 81. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a score of 80. Matt is going to challenge that.
Yeah, I think it's beautifully lit. There's such a warm expression. She's really engaging with the viewer of this image, but the image is also for her as well. I think there's a lot of really subtle nods to who she is as a person that are kind of hidden within the image. So on her right arm, for example, you can see that she's got this paintbrush tattoo kind of hidden away in the darkness there, but still visible. She's got her wedding ring on. She's got this feather on her earring. And I don't know the feathers of birds in New Zealand, but I have a feeling that that feather's probably significant and says something about where she is from. I also think particularly probably the key to the image for me is the stretch marks on her belly, and that's showing with some sense of pride actually the difficulties of carrying a child. And obviously I can't speak from this personally, I can only go by from what I've been told by others, but the difficulties, the transition in one's body and that kind of thing. And I think that's a really subtle way of presenting that idea. So I've given it an 86, and I've done that because of the subtlety of all these different cues that are hidden within the image and the way that those different things speak together about this person.
Thanks, Matt. Jo, could we hear from you, please?
Yeah, I gave this 78. I think it's fairly solidly in the professional practice realm of maternity photography. I love your story, Matt. I love you pointing out all the little elements, and I agree with you. I absolutely adore that the skin has been left in a fairly natural state. Where it's held back for me is I get a strong feeling of her pulling back away from the photographer, away from the being photographed. I don't feel like she looks comfortable, and I don't feel like her body has, I feel like the maker has gone some way in posing her, but she feels truncated to me. It feels like she's being sort of shrunk vertically. I feel like there's quite a few little things the maker could have done for this photo to bring her out more and have a more resolved feel to the overall image.
Thanks, Jo. Stacey, could we hear from you, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I gave this an 81, but it's strange because it's actually some of the reasons that you pointed out, Joe, that I really enjoy. I feel like, yeah, she doesn't normally belong in a dress like this. I feel like it's been really, the skin and the details have been left really, really authentic. She does feel like there's a little bit of kind of tenseness around the jaw, like she is pulling away, and but I find that quite quirky, and I find that really, like, she looks absolutely beautiful. She's been posed beautifully. The light on her is really, really beautiful, and yet there's this kind of a little bit of reluctance, but I find that endearing. I think that's what actually makes me enjoy the image a little bit more. The reason I didn't go up any higher was because I felt like it's a little bit cramped at the bottom. Just a bit more space around the bottom would have been a bit more ideal for me. But I could go up a few points. It's a, yeah, very. It feels like a really real, authentic portrait.
Thanks, Stacey. Back to you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And Joe, as a portrait photographer, you're probably a lot better at reading people than I am, so I appreciate you bringing that to it. I guess Stacey probably brought up the word that didn't come into my head, but endearing is something that I see when I do see this photograph. I think there's a couple of other details, so like her little foot kind of sticking out from underneath her dress there, that's kind of colored by the redness of the dress. And there's a few little details like that that I appreciate. I completely agree. A little bit more room at the bottom and even potentially a little at the sides where the dress is just running off to the edges would have improved it. So I'll just say, let's see where we can go at the score.
Thanks, Matt. Can we have the judges rescore, please? And we have a score of 81. That is a silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a score of 79. Do you want to challenge that, Angela?
Sure. I just gave this an 80, not just, I gave this an 80. Just squeaked it into silver, just because I felt like the subject appears so serene and calm, and it's just a really lovely scene. I like the balance of the darkness and the brightness in the sky at the top. At first I was thinking maybe it was a little bit heavy at the bottom, but I actually think it balances quite nicely with the very bright sky in the background. Yeah, so if you can give it another little point up, we're going to have to rejudge it anyway of sitting on 79. So yeah, I think it's deserving of a silver.
Thank you. Matt, do you want to have a talk about this?
Yeah, I was almost in the same place. I was on 78. I feel like we're probably all pretty consistent somewhere around that area. I think what held me back was the posing just felt like it was an in-between action. So she's not engaging with the environment with her hand yet, but it feels like she's about to, or she just did. And I guess it's just that kind of in-between thing where I'm not sure like what she's doing, or um, I'm not sure if she knows what she's doing in that moment. It's just kind of, yeah, it just feels like it hasn't been fully resolved until in terms of the pose or the action.
Thanks, Matt. Jo, do you want to comment on this one?
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think she's beautifully serene, but the biggest thing for me is I don't think she's in focus. I don't know if anyone else is seeing that, but to me, her face looks quite soft, and her hand and some of the foliage looks like it's where the focus actually is. I also think that this could have benefited by putting a bit more into the sky. And this category, you can add a bit more sky in. So I feel like the giant egg white is not really adding anything to the feel of the photo. But yeah, the styling and the serenity is lovely.
Thanks, Jo. Back to you, Angela.
Yeah, I hear what everyone's saying. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you, judges. Can we have you rescore, please? And we have a 79, which is highly commended, but we need to go to review. So judges, I need you to either enter 79 for highly commended or 80 for silver for this image. Thank you, judges. We have a 79, a highly commended award. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? We have a score of 78. We'll accept that. Can I have a comment, please, from one of the judges? Jo, do you want to comment?
Sure. This is a really delightful little moment, very authentic between this mother and child, and the lighting on then is really beautiful. To improve it, the highlights and the beach behind them really needs to be brought down. They're quite distracting, and they do lead your eye away from the beautiful little interaction.
Thanks, Jo. Can we have the next image, please? Thanks, judges. We have a score of 82. Do you want to challenge Matt?
Yeah, let's have a chat.
Go for it.
Yeah, I put it up a few points higher into silver with merit, and the reason for that is it is such a powerful portrayal of this woman, and I feel like it's the kind of image where this is how she wants to be seen as well. So I think the photographer's done really well to give her that, but also to create something that's quite bedded within fashion, is powerful, is bold, it's very direct. It's not even necessarily about the maternity, it's about how she is as a woman, and she's really kind of owning this. And in terms of the presentation, like the way that the dress is framing the upper half of the frame works really well, creates this beautiful flow through the image. I think the posing is fairly classic. It's not like elevating it higher than the silver with merit, but it's also not holding it back. It does allow us to see her jewelry on her left hand as well. And I think the texture, I can appreciate that you might take it or leave it, but I do think it adds to that kind of refined end product of it looking a bit more like a fashion shoot. The one thing that I wasn't sure about immediately was her eyes. They are quite dark, and it would be lovely to see just a bit more light come in to those eyes. But there is some gentle highlight in those areas as well. So I just think it's very powerful. It's not exactly what you'd see every day from maternity. I think it's worth rewarding a little bit more.
Matt, Michelle, can we hear from you, please? You just muted yourself, Michelle.
Sorry. I scored this image 78. I really, when it first popped up, I really wanted to really like it because, like you said, it is very powerful. But I just have a trouble, like she is incredibly bright, but you've lost a lot of details in the bottom of that material, and that texture kind of pulls me off her, which I didn't really like so much. I think if you had to drop that texture down a little bit, but I just find her so incredibly bright, and we've just lost some of the detail and stuff in that material. So if you can explain that, I'm all ears.
Thanks, Michelle. Stacey, do you want to?
Yeah, I will. I gave this an 81. I think it's got really, really strong visual impact when you first see it. And I love the fact that she looks so powerful and strong. She looks like a volcano erupting to me. She's just spilling out. And it's just, the strength of her character really shines through. Beautiful, rich colouring, the matching of the dress with the lipstick and the beautiful dark hair. I think what held me back was what you said, Matt, in that it doesn't necessarily feel like a maternity shot. And maybe that's exactly what she wanted, and she's being portrayed the way she likes to be seen. But I feel like the posing is beautiful, but maybe just a little bit more cupping from the bottom hand, just to bring it into a maternity shot. That's what really held me back, is that I don't know that there's ever so much connection with the baby and the bump.
Thanks, Stacey. Back to you. Oh, Jo wants to say
Can I just say
something.
something? I really love what you said about the volcano, the explosion. And I do feel like this is more of a fashion portrait, but I do feel like a maternity portrait should really be about the person in the photo. And I feel like this woman is drama. She's cinematic. She's bold. She's a very bold person. And I feel like this portrait has been created to represent who she is, which ideally we do in portraiture.
Thanks, Jo. Back to you, Matt.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things that have been said about this photograph that aren't said about most maternity photos. Like, when was the last time you compared a maternity photo to a volcano erupting? And isn't that a special thing that this photographer is being able to bring us, that we have something so novel and so simple, but so novel at the same time? I think in terms of it being a maternity shot, I agree with Jo. It is about the woman in the photograph, and we do see that she is carrying. So I think it does cover that idea of a maternity shot. But I also think there's room for, like, what is a maternity shot and what should it be? And this is an image that's taking that inspiration from other genres and bringing it into this genre, and also pushing the genre's boundaries a little bit further as well. It doesn't have to be overtly about the baby. In this particular image, it's about a powerful woman who just happens to have a baby that's on the way. So that doesn't bother me at all. In terms of the material down the bottom, I think if you got into too much detail down there, it would lose some of the movement and the dynamism of the image. I don't think you really want to be looking at the bottom. That's really just a frame for the power that's in the middle of the image and to carry you through into that space. It's not an area that you want to get stuck in. So if that is a concern for you, I understand and do agree that that is how it is. But I don't think, for me personally, that's something that's important. I think it just carries you through to what matters. So I'm in silver for merit, and if anyone can join me there, that would be great.
Thanks, Matt. Judges, can you please rescore? And we have a silver with merit at 85. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a silver award at 80. Jo wants to challenge.
Yeah, I gave this an 85. I've just squeaked it into silver merit. This is just so beautiful. When it came around, it's just so soft and so dreamy and so delicate. I just wanted to bring myself right into it. And then you start seeing all these little stories, like you've almost got a little bit of a butterfly with her reflection, which again gives you that story of new life. I just think it's been so well handled. All those tones are just so delicate, and she's just part of all those tones. And I love the way she's just there in her environment, looking out to the future. We so often see a woman looking directly at the camera, but this one is just so contemplative. There's a real gentleness to her, to how she's experiencing her pregnancy, and just a little step forward with her feet. I think again lends to that story of walking towards the future. And I love the birds, because this is like that they give us the chaos of life, of what's coming for her. They're sort of everywhere. It's a bit like what happens when you become a mother. There's all this stuff. You might be serene in yourself, but there's all this crazy going on around you. That's real life. So yeah, I feel like there's lots of layers to this, and it's just been really beautifully presented. So I'd like to see us squeak it into silver distinction.
Thanks, Jo. Angela, can we hear from you, please?
Sure. I gave this a 77, but willing to be persuaded to come up perhaps into the silver range. Appreciate your take on the birds and the chaos, and I did think that myself that works nicely in the chaos, but the only thing is that the birds at the top kind of dominate a little bit too much, and they drag my eye up there because they are so prominent, and especially cutting out of the frame. Yeah, lovely soft palette. I agree with all of that. Yeah, I can be tempted to come up a few points into the silver range.
Thanks, Angela. Michelle, can we hear from you, please?
Yeah, I landed this at 81 for the fact that the beautiful palette and her dreamy look in her face, but those birds, particularly the one on the left, annoyed the crap out of me. I'm listening to the story of chaos, and yes, it is chaos. But I think it would have been even better if even just that one bird wasn't there. And maybe if she was looking maybe on a 45 angle, just a little bit more, but I will come up a little bit. So yeah.
Thank you. Back to you, Jo.
For me, the birds really add to the story, because again, this woman is in her beautiful special place, her favorite beach, and this is the reality of her life. There are birds, there are things flying around, there is all this action happening in her life. I mean, I love the fact that the darkness in the birds is sort of replicated in the darkness of the shadow of her head, so that gives balance. And I actually feel like they really frame her quite beautifully. They almost created a little swirl around her. And in the center of the swirl is this deep calmness and this sort of certitude and this readiness for what's coming next. Yeah, I think that's very thoughtfully composed. I feel like, yeah, it would have been obvious to cut those birds out. Then you would have just had serene, serene, serene. But this gives you layers and depth and the reality of what life is. Yeah, I think it's definitely worthy of a silver distinction, and I encourage you to come up with me.
Thanks, Jo. Judges, can you rescore, please? And we have a silver award at 83. Congratulations to the photographer. And that is the end of the maternity category. Congratulations to our top 10 finalists. Thank you to those who entered, and a massive thank you to our judging panel.